members. So, yeah, I'm ready when you are. We are live. Okay. Thank you, and welcome to the meeting of Cabinet this evening, Monday the 6th of October. And I would like to have authorisation, please, to sign the minutes of the last meeting. The last two meetings, even. And is that forward here? Thank you very much. Right. Yes, so welcome to members here in the chamber, those who are online, and members of the public who are with us this evening, and those that are up in the gallery. So we'll move forward. I've signed the minutes of the last two meetings. Apologies for absence. Lisa.
None received, Chair, and just to confirm, all Cabinet members are present in the room except for Councillors Aaron Rathbone Ariel and Councillor Ashan Jiawan, who are remote.
Jolly good, thank you very much indeed. And are there any additional agenda items, please?
There are none.
Thank you. Urgent decisions?
There are none.
Excellent. Disclosure of interest and dispensations. Remind members we need to receive any disclosures by members of disclosable pecuniary interests and other registrable interests, non-registrable interest in the matters on the agenda, and the nature of any interest and details of any dispensations obtained. Members are reminded of the need to repeat their declaration immediately prior to the commencement of the item in question. No, that's fine. I think we're in a position where we can move on to the first item, homelessness and rough sleeping strategy. This is a report from Joe Powell, Head of Housing and Strategic Assets, and Rory McCourt is going to introduce this report. Thank you, Rory.
Thank you, Chair. I spoke in favour of this report, this strategy at the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and I speak here tonight, and I think it's a great strategy. I commend the officers who've produced this. It's really robust and comprehensive, and I think it will go some way and prepare us and set us up in the right way to approach whatever happens in the future with the unitary and local government review and all the rest of it. It sets out our stall really well and really professionally in tackling homelessness and rough sleeping. I've had the benefit of reading strategies from neighbouring authorities and unitary authorities, and it measures up really well and is better than a lot of them, I would say. It's a difficult topic, isn't it? Because we've had the perfect storm of 15 years of diminishing social housing, being lost through the Right to Buy scheme, and a lack of house building generally due to a lack of various issues, central government funding, but also financial crisis and spiralling inflation and all the rest of it. So the background hasn't been brilliant over the last 15 years. And indeed, as a result of that, homelessness has increased from here in Rother, from 216 presentations in 2017-18 to 571 in 23-24. We had a temporary accommodation of 30 households in 2015, and we now have got over 200. So it's been, and of course, I know private rented accommodation has increased 26% over the last 5 or 6 years. So all of this, and in a low-wage economy, it really means that it's very difficult for people to find any sort of accommodation, but especially affordable accommodation. I agree with the key themes in this strategy, and I think those themes, just to spell them out, reducing homelessness via early intervention and prevention. We know that if we can get to people who are at risk of being homeless and put in measures, whether it's assistance with welfare benefits or helping them sustain their tenancies in other ways, that has a really transformative effect on keeping people in their homes, sustaining their tenancies. I think the other theme of increasing housing accessibility is obviously a good one, and improving the quality and supply of temporary accommodation, and reducing homelessness and rough sleeping for people with multiple and complex needs, which is another major issue. People with enduring mental health or substance use problems often find themselves on the streets or in insecure accommodation. And the last theme, improving the quality and suitability of housing, is one that I think is something that we definitely can strive for. We've also had successes, it must be said, compared to other authorities, and I think the increase in buying units of accommodation, 69 units of temporary accommodation, which is, I think, I'm not an expert in this, looking at finance people, but it saves us over $1 million a year when we spend over 2 million of our budget on temporary accommodation and homelessness. And of course, we have the affordable housing of 130 homes coming online at Blackfriars in the next year or so. So I think the measures, the actions from this strategy, such as setting up a homelessness prevention hub in Bexhill, with advice, a food bank, etc., led by RVA and the council, is great. Continuing the LIFT initiative, which is an acronym, which is the Low Income Family Tracker, which again, it enables us to make early interventions with people who are struggling generally, is a good thing. Working with CAB 1066 to identify things around people who qualify for energy support, and working generally with the ICB, Integrated Care Board, because I think in the past, that's one of the main issues has been local authorities and the NHS and the voluntary sector working in their own way in a kind of silo fashion. And now everybody knows that the key to success is working together, pulling our resources. So I think it's a really good strategy. Really glad it's coming forward tonight. And I'm sure my colleagues in the Cabinet will support it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Rory. Joe, can I invite you to make any observations or comments following the introduction from Rory?
No, just to thank Rory for a very comprehensive introduction. The fact that we produced this off the back of a service review with Shelter and produced in partnership with Homeless Link is a novel approach, certainly for outside of London, and that's definitely, and the main cities probably. It's definitely to the benefit of the strategy and make sure that we're really focused on people and bringing services around people as opposed to expecting vulnerable people to navigate themselves around hundreds of services, which is often the experience. Yeah, we're very positive about it. I did want to mention the East Sussex Housing Partnership Strategy that's coming forward to you in November for endorsement as such. It's not a formal strategy of this council. It's a partnership strategy between the East Sussex Housing Partnership, which includes health, social care, the other housing authorities, and others besides, and criminal justice partners. So, yeah, really, really positive step forward for this council. I think it will leave us in a strong position with LGR coming up and leave us well aligned through the East Sussex Partnership as well to transition. So, yeah, it's making the best of a challenging environment, though, to be honest, and we do expect to see a continued rise in demand with the cost of living being what it is and house prices continuing to inflate.
Yeah, well, thank you, officers, for obviously putting together this very comprehensive report. And it was looked at by colleagues in scrutiny, I think, back in September. Is there any comments, Paul, Councillor Paul Osborne, that you would wish to add to that, please?
Thank you, Chairman. No, not necessarily. I think Councillor McCourt has sort of summed it up nicely, as Joe has. I think a special mention to Caroline, who did the sort of I think the main meat of the report. It should be mentioned. We've seen it before prior to public consultation, and then it came back. Now it's an excellent bit of work, and as Joe has said, it will see us, going forward in local government reorganisation. This will see us in good stead, and it'll be a very useful document. So I think there's nothing much to add here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. Are there any questions from members within the chamber or those online, or observations? Councillor Gareth Delaney.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say, maybe declare an interest in the sense of my role at the food bank as the advisor there. So I'm looking forward to spending some of my time in the new hub on Devonshire Road when that gets up and running, and I'll be very keen to work with the housing team, because that's something I'm probably feel a little bit underpowered with as far as advice that I can give my clients. It mentions in one of the actions about establishing a community of practice for frontline staff. So I wonder if could you explain a little bit more about that? Because I think that would be extremely useful if we're looking to help train other frontline staff in the community. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There's this the strategy does reference our anti-poverty strategy as well, which was adopted in 2019. 2022. Sorry, and that I forgot where I was in time. That strategy really is a much clearer focus on the need for community collaboration that focuses on the need to collaborate and work in a more coordinated way to improve access to services across the system. Also information and the quality of the information that's shared with service users, but also between us as professionals. And also that coordination on the front line so that people are integrated and interfacing with each other. The sort of flagship policy of that strategy, and linked to this strategy very much, is the former Edinburgh Woolen Mill building that RVA have now leased from us, that we've enabled. And Kim I met with a few weeks ago to look around again and look at their plans there, and very much in the middle of that is about how we can bring local support services and VCSE services and statutory services together to work in a much more collaborative way. And I think the shorthand for this is that people are at the core of all of this, and we need to bring professional people together so that they can work in a collaborative environment, having respect for confidentiality, etc., as we'd expect, but for people to know one another and to really have a relationship and trust one another, crucially. That really breaks down a lot of barriers that emerge really from systems being too remote from one another, also not community-based, and that is true in some ways of our own services, which are sometimes can be designed about what's most efficient for us, as opposed to what's most expedient and a benefit to the receiver of the service. So to that end, we're looking at locating ourselves in that building as well, as a housing needs service anyway. And I know colleagues in other public-facing services in the council are also considering how we might be in a more accessible environment as well. Does that cover it? Yeah, okay.
Thank you for those comments, Joe. Remotely, Councillor Vicky Cook. Vicky.
Sorry, I seem to have managed to rename myself Nicola McLaren, but I'll sort that out another time. My only concern was when we talked about this as overview and scrutiny. I know Councillor John Barnes did particularly stress that we should put a little bit more emphasis on ex-prisoners. So I'd just like that to ensure that that's included in the strategy, please. Thank you.
Joe, would you just like to acknowledge that?
Yeah, very much so. And we work very closely with the prison, Lewes Prison, and the probation services via the Sussex Housing Partnership. They're a key member of that.
Given the vote, no other members want to make any comments. Rory, would you move this report?
Yeah, I'll formally move that, Chair.
Thank you. And second, yep, thank you very much indeed. And if we may just show a vote, and that's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you, Joe, again, for your team that's brought this together. I think we move on to item 7. This is the performance report first quarter. This is received recommendations from the scrutiny committee, again held back in the beginning of 8th of September, that considered performance report first quarter. The report and recommendations are reported within the report. Anna, is this your report? Thank you very much. I'll hand over to you.
Yep, thank you. As you said, scrutiny went through the report in quite a lot of detail, and generally across the board, performance is very good. There's only a couple of areas that have got the amber kind of traffic light on them. The key recommendation coming out of scrutiny, though, was that there are 2 KPIs, which are KPI P5 and P6, and they're concerning planning, extension of times, and the recommendation is that these don't really add a lot to the suite of KPIs, and they're not part of government measures, and they're actually quite confusing when you read them, because they actually look like, you know, how many applications are being assessed, but they're really about how many applications have been subjected to extension of times. Mike Hughes, the planning manager, went through the reasons behind using extensions of time, and there are often mostly very, very good reasons for using them. For example, if an applicant has not submitted all of their information, as we know, people have to pay a fee to go through the planning system, and if you rejected the applications because people didn't submit all the information, it wouldn't be particularly fair. So the recommendation is that those two KPIs are deleted until we've got the more information about the new planning measures that are coming in. They're the recommendations. Did you want me to go through anything else in the performance report?
Do any members want any further information on the performance report? Councillor Field, Catherine?
I was just wondering, the 63-37% split, digital contact versus face-to-face contact and traditional contact. People that come face-to-face, do you know if it's because they can't access digitally or because they'd rather do it face-to-face?
Now, I have an expert online here. Mark Adams is online, so he might be able to answer that one.
Are you there, Mark?
Thank you, Chair. That's a really good question, Councillor Field. I don't have that data to hand, and it's not something that we directly capture, but a lot of that is through choice. So it's that they want that face-to-face interaction. It's likely that they can interact with us digitally, but due to the nature of the query, they want to see someone in person, face-to-face. A lot of that is likely around complex subjects like housing, benefits, where you kind of need that human interaction to deal with, or a presentation of homelessness. But that is something that we can go away and get some more detailed analysis in relation to that difference between the need and can or are unable to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any other questions from within the chamber? Online, no. Paul, I know at scrutiny that you looked at this and made these recommendations. Anything further to add?
Thank you, Chairman. No, I don't think so. To be honest, we were pretty happy with everything. And the new head of planning sort of explained the reasoning behind the change to the planning runs. So it all made sense. One thing that really stands out excellent is neighbourhood services and the missed bins. We've shown 16 missed bins per 100,000 collections, which is pretty remarkable. So I think that's worth mentioning, just for the sheer fact that that's a key service that we provide, provided to every single household, and at the moment it's excellent. So it's got to be worth mentioning. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think it touches every resident in some way, shape or form, and there are unbelievable sort of figures that come out to support that. No other questions. If I can have someone to move this report, please, in the absence of Ash. Oh, sorry, Ash, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm coming to you live from Swindon. Just wanted to say thank you to Paul and his ONS committee for having a good look at this report. I think it just highlights the really strong overall performance when you look at the number of measures and the number of greens within that. And Anna's already explained about the two areas, P5 and P6, that we want to review. But yeah, just wanted to highlight the great work and the strong performance overall that's been achieved by everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ash, for those comments. Councillor Sue Project will move. Second. Councillor Hazel Timpey, those in favour of the report, and that's unanimous. And thank you very much indeed for all the work that's gone in on bringing this together. Anna, are you with us for a little bit longer now, aren't you? Yeah. Okay, so if we move forward to item 8, this is the budget monitoring, revenue and capital and savings Q1 update. This is a report of the Deputy Chief Executive 151 Officer, Andrew Valence. So are you going to introduce this report, Andrew, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. As the Chair said, it's the Q1, so it's the end of June. So it's fairly early days in the year and quite some time ago now. It's showing on the revenue budget an overspend of 250,000. The main variances are shown under paragraph 6, particularly F, strategic asset management, with a 259,000 deficit, and the reasons are laid out in front of you. I won't read them out. K, planning, on the next page, planning fee income is down. But on the other side, neighbourhood services are doing really well. Just had some praise for their performance, but also their financial performance. 65,000 forecast saving. I think that will grow. By the end of June, they have already had a surplus of 50,000 on car parks. That's obviously mainly Canberra and maybe the seafront here at Delaware. Obviously, we've had 3 more months of quite nice weather, so I would expect parking income to have further increased across the summer. So I think the next report will show further income, additional income there. And again, on the waste, they've got additional income on garden and bulky waste collection. So again, a really good effort there. So the effect of that 250k overspend on the reserves is shown in paragraphs 18 and 19 on page 134. We did have £5 million in general reserves at the end of last year. This report alone would take that reserve down by nearly £1 million, because there was obviously support of 600,000 in the original budget for this year, plus the overspend of 250. So that would take reserves down to just over 4 million by the end of this financial year. In addition, we have a couple of other pressures on reserves. We have some aborted capital projects, particularly the villas project next door from some years ago, that we may well have to write off against the revenue account this year. That's not a given, but it's a likelihood. And in addition, as Audit Committee will be well aware, we've reported regularly on the final valuation of the Hermes Property Fund, which has been wound up. And we are probably going to take a loss of around 420,000 on that fund. Usually there is a statutory override in place which applies to our other property fund, our CCLA fund, that we don't have to take any losses to the revenue account until 2029. But unfortunately, this fund has been wound up. We weren't allowed to put the funds in the successor fund because that would only take pension fund contributions. So we are unfortunately having to take the loss this year of 420,000. I would just point out, though, that investment over about 8 or 9 years has produced interest well in excess of that 400,000. So the actual investment itself wasn't loss-making overall. That's a capital loss. We probably made interest of about 700,000 or so over that period. So that's just the main factors there, really, in the budget. So the reserves probably by the end of this year will be around £2.7 to £3 million, I would suggest, by the end of the year. And that will factor into budget reports at future meetings where we sort of address whether those reserves are sufficient or not to carry us through the next 2 years when we produce things like the medium-term financial strategy. So you'll see a lot more reference to the reserves in reports over the next 2 or 3 months. That's it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. Ash, did you want to add anything to this before we get it moved, or any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think Andrew's covered off most of it. It was just a kind of overview of the revenue budget. So we've got 15 service lines. It was just interesting to note that the actual deficit was in 6 of them, but the remainder either had a balance or a forecast. So it was a positive improvement on a previous one. And the other point that I wanted to highlight, which Andrew's already done, was just to draw attention to the budget reserves, which we've covered off. So nothing further from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ash. Anybody from within who wants to ask a question? I've got Councillor John Barnes online. John?
Yes, I think one's bound to express some concern about the reserve position. Agreed, we're very early in the year yet, and income, particularly on car parking, is likely to recover. But 2.8 million is, if we end up there, is not very comfortable compared with other authorities. We will be covering, I'm thinking of parish councils here, where we try and maintain at least a 6-month reserve. This will be a lot less than that. We were advised, and I think it's worth just noting, that King Arthur, of course, we may yet be able to recover that sum if we can do a deal with on the way that we dispose of King Offa or the way we take King Offa forward. So that write-off is by no means certain, but the Renaissance project is, of course, certain to be written off. So it's not a very good prospect. And I think we will need to drive quite heavily on savings programs in the remainder of our lifespan as the Unitary Council. And I think we better face up to that reality. Thank you very much, Leader.
Yes, thank you for those comments, John. I think we all echo those, and we're fully aware of what the task is ahead of us. Any other questions? No? If someone can move the report in the absence of Ash, who's online. Thank you, Councillor Timpey, and thank you, Councillor Delaney. And those in favour of where we are, and we are where we are, so that's... are you with us? No, are there... Yes, yes. Oh, sorry, yes, right, okay, fine, that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, let's move into agenda item 8. 9, sorry, yes. Yes, 9, just making sure that you spotted that, Gareth. Okay, so this is the potential Rye Business Improvement District ballot proposal, known as the Rye bid. And I believe Anna or Anne is a sort of a double act. They're going to present this report.
I think Councillor Bayliss is going to introduce the report.
Oh, right, I wasn't aware of that. Were you?
Yes, it's. I think Councillor Timpey and I were both going to do.
Okay, so it's a double act then.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's fine. So introduced with Councillor Bayliss and Councillor Timpey, and then anything added to it will come from the duo at the back of the chamber. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I do hope Cabinet will support the recommendations and the resolution that's before us today. Rye Chamber of Commerce have put in, hard yards to get to this position where they've got, I think, a really credible business improvement district bid to go forward, which, as if you've read the paperwork, you'll know it requires a ballot of those people paying business rates. They've, worked hard, I think, probably for more than 2 years on gathering all the evidence needed. I think it could be transformational for Rye as a tourist destination. It will put some of the stuff that Rother's not been able to do for a number of years now. It will put some of those services and those initiatives back in the hands of people who make their living in the high street, and as I say, it has the potential to be transformational in terms of how successful Rye is as an economic development area. So from my perspective on economic development, I'm really happy to propose this and propose that we organise the ballot that needs to take place. And I don't know if Councillor Timpey wants to say anything about the tourism aspect.
Thank you, Christine. Hazel?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Councillor Bayliss has pretty much covered the instigation of this idea, and it has been a long road, as she said. But anything that improves the area and the visitor experience, which this will do, because they're going to be looking at, for example, the Rye station toilets and things like that. So it will be a tremendous improvement, I think, not only for tourism, but for the residents of Rye. And I think that the people at Rye Chamber really need to be congratulated on how they have just stuck with this proposal and that it's finally in. And it has tremendous support from myself and also from other councillors in Rye. And so I really look forward to my colleagues agreeing with it. And I just look forward to anything that helps tourism, because we are really struggling at the moment to get people to our area. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. Are there any questions from members online or in the chamber? Did you want to add anything, Anna or Anne? Oh, beg your pardon, sorry, I've got Councillor Osborne first and then I'll come back to you. Paul?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm assuming that the two Rye board members aren't on the call, which is a shame. This is sort of my area surrounds Rye, so I'm not speaking for Rye as such, but I'm sort of I'm supportive of it, but I'm not sure it's 100% supported by the businesses. I was sort of reading up some stuff on it last night. There seems to be a bit of angst from some of the businesses who don't think they've been consulted enough, or they've got an additional cost. I think the sort of bid is it's got to be voted on by some 240 plus businesses in this sort of area. I'm not sure of the sort of the level of vote required, where it's 50% or 51% like a Brexit, which goes really well, or whether you need a 75 or a 60-40 split or whatever to make it work. It'll be interesting, but I think it's a difficult one in that, the businesses themselves will have an additional cost, an additional rate, if you like, to make this work. And I can't see 100% of them being happy with that. Tourism-wise, I think the town's pretty busy. It seems pretty busy. It has been. It's quite nice on a Saturday morning now to actually be able to buy some bread. And I'm assuming sort of the Airbnb people, are they classified as businesses as well? They're sort of taking probably as much money out of it as some of the shops. Would they be sort of paying towards this? It's just a thought. It'd be interesting to see what the outcome is. I think it's February time that the outcome is. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, for those observations. Christine, did you want to go back on that, please?
Yes, just to say that I understand there are a small number of businesses that are against this, but this is democracy in action, and everybody will be given the full information before the vote takes place, and will understand the implications. I can't answer the technical detail about whether it's a 51% pass rate or how that works, and I only assume that those businesses that are those Airbnbs that are registered, and as you know, Councillor Osborne, when we've had our recent inquiry into Airbnbs in Rye, there's quite a number who are still rated as domestic properties, but the ones that are charged business rates, I'm not sure whether they would be in or out, but I'm sure officers can clarify that.
I'll invite Anna or Anne to make any observations on the points that Councillor Osborne made and Councillor Bayliss's response.
Yes, Councillor Bayliss said it's for those businesses that are registered for business rates. So it's those that will be invited to the ballot. And I think the other question, I don't know the answer to that one. I think it's 51%. But
yeah, well, the regulation is a simple majority. Does that mean? That means 51%. Yeah.
So Yes, that's 51%.
And the concerns that Councillor Osborne raised with regard to perhaps not being fully supported, have you picked this up at all in your dealings with, through the Chamber and with any other businesses in Rye?
I'll just answer that, Chair. Yes, I think it is fair to say that it's not universally supported. There is a national campaign against bids, which targets local areas, and I think it's safe to say that in particular has been a factor here. But as Councillor Bayliss said, at the end of the day, this report is not about supporting one way or the other. It's actually about instruction to pallet, and then the businesses will decide.
It's a procedural from our point of view, isn't
Yeah.
it? And the cost implication is not a massive one. Right, online. Councillor John Barnes. John?
Yes, it's a little bit more than procedural because you have a right to veto if you wanted to, and I'm assuming you certainly don't want to veto, and you have votes to cast. So I think we need to give quite a strong lead on this one. It is a shame that, of course, the hospitality industry is under such pressure at the moment because of other government policies. But this is levelling up money which will come into the area and benefit it. And we really do need to give a boost to tourism if possible. So I hope we will give a strong lead on this one and hope to carry the ballot in Rye. Thank you.
Yes, totally agree with you, John. I think we need to be supportive. No other questions from anywhere? No? Are you going to move this report, Christine? Yeah, and secondly, thank you, Hazel, and those in favour? That's unanimous. Fine, thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Anne and Anna, for your attendance this evening. Are you going to go now, or...? Yes, you sound a bit, yeah. Yes, it's all these holidays going on aeroplanes. Right. Mark, you're online with us, and there's the report agenda item 10, the revised vexatious complaints policy and guidance. Are you going to present this report and talk us through it, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, happy to present. So for members' awareness, we do have Kelvin Springer in the chamber tonight, who is our specialist in information governance. So if there are any technical questions that myself is unable to answer, then we have Kelvin on hand to support. And Kelvin is also the author of this report and the next report. So he's very well versed in this subject. So on with the report. So the report was presented to the audit committee to bring forward to cabinet. So this is a revised policy for handling vexatious complaints. In Appendix 4 details the improvements from the current policy, which was introduced in 2015, slight revision in 2022. So the new policy, which is titled 2025, just details that strengthening in terms of aligning it to include not only with the good practice from the local government ombudsman, but also the Information Commissioner's Office, along with improving the definitions, improving process, so improving who's detailed, that decision-making process to ensure that we don't dismiss a genuine complaint. We only would use this for those circumstances that would mean to. This is part of our. We're bringing this to cabinet as part of our improvements to information governance across the board. So we're looking at a lot of our existing policies in relation to. The flow of information, how we handle it, and that part of this report is part of that. So in the audit consideration, audits were very supportive of the report and the policy, and they noted that the use of the language, tone, and distinction between the complainants, complaints, bit of focus on that neurodiverse side of things. It was very well written. And it's ensuring that the council's complaints handling process is proportionate and robust, and it protects staff at the same time. There was some discussion in relation to involvement of the council's independent person, but that has no role in this policy. The independent bodies that would review a complaint are the local government ombudsman, as well as the Information Commissioner's Office, and that they are, like I say, that those independent governing bodies in relation to that. And part of the key to this is the promotion to staff, and Audit were very keen that this included parish and town councils across the district. So they're aware that we've revised this policy, and it hopefully will help support the whole of the Rother area in dealing with complaints that unfortunately would go to this nature. So that's the report. Very, very brief summary. I'm happy to answer questions. We also have, like I say, Kelvin in the room to do the same. So thank you, Chair. Like I say, happy to go into any detail that's needed.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Councillor John Barnes, because I think it went through audit and there were some considerations there. John, would you like to add something, please?
Yes, just a couple of things. I think Mark has outlined it very well, and we were strongly in favour of what's being done. We were particularly pleased to see the very clear distinction between complainants and complaint, because we mustn't lose sight of the substance of a genuine complaint simply because the behaviour of the person complaining is sometimes a great deal to be desired. Our real worry is that there is some evidence now that vexatious complaints are being used as a form of intimidation. And I know of at least one episode involving a parish clerk where the intimidation is becoming quite serious, which is one of the reasons why we were strongly in favour of this applying not merely to the council, but actually to parish councils and town councils as well. But yeah, we strongly approve of what has been done on this. It's a very good piece of work and we support it strongly.
Thank you very much indeed, John, for your support on this. Councillor Rory McCourt and then Councillor Field.
Thank you, Chair. I support this and I commend the officers on pulling this report together. I remember many years ago an auditor once telling me, in any organisation you will have instances of fraud. You just haven't uncovered them yet. In any organisation you will get complaints as well. And for me, it's the sign of a mature and a transparent organisation which welcomes complaints and can learn from them. I was also told once by an officer that think of complaints as free consultancy on where you're perhaps going wrong or perhaps we could do things better. So I do welcome this. I would also just observe that with the rise of social media and sometimes the cynicism and the abuse which can result as a result of that it tends to amplify conspiracies. And we've seen this here in Rother ourselves in the last year, especially over issues such as the colonnade, where we've had personal attacks on officers, questioning their integrity, about the veracity of minutes, totally spurious attacks on officers and councillors, which have been politically motivated and have engendered a real cynicism that in effect undermines our democracy. So, I welcome the policy and procedure that weeds those sort of personal attacks, and regrettably have come from some members who really should know better and have used complaints in a vexatious way to push a political agenda to attack officers and members. So I welcome this, and I thank the officers for bringing this forward. Thank you, Chair.
I appreciate your comments, Rory. Thank you. Catherine Field.
Thank you. Yes, I completely agree with everything Councillor McCourt has said, and I also welcome this. It is very clear, and I don't think any of us would wish our staff to be subject to vexatious complaints or indeed vexatious complainants. Where they go after that, though, is the interesting question, because they very often land up in the inboxes and the doorsteps of councillors who do not appear to be covered by this policy. We are hung out to dry sometimes by vexatious complainants who have had vexatious complaints, quite rightly, squashed by the council. And perhaps we need some training on this, because there are people out there who, quite frankly, will never take no for an answer. And when their backs are against the wall and they've got nowhere with the organisation, they come to its members. And I don't think we should be at risk either. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Catherine. Is there any response, Butter or Lorna, please?
Thank you, Chair. So happy to provide training in relation to the member complaints aspect and side of things. So this complaints policy, the vexation complaints policy, essentially, as you said, Councillor, in relation to officers and the way the council deals with its resources in terms of continued complaints. But I'm happy to look at how officers, members can be better protected in terms of continued complainants and the difficulties that members can face as a result of residents continually or those who approach members continually and how that can be better dealt with. But it is very difficult, I have to say, but I'm more than happy to provide member training in relation to that. Chair, if I can just pick up on one other point as well. Councillor Barnes mentioned earlier that the policy will be rolled out for the use by town and parish councils. So, strictly speaking, they can adopt their own policy in relation to it and follow the council's lead in how we've put this vexatious policy out. I think it was more just for their awareness in terms of how the council is approaching and broaching continuous requests of information and how we deal with it as a council. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Ash, did your hand go up and down? Did you want to make an observation, please?
It did, thank you. Councillor Field actually addressed the point that I wanted to make just around member training, awareness and accountability. Obviously, usually my portfolio agenda items are usually around finance, so it's quite nice to have a bit of governance thrown in for a change. I think, any strengthening of policy is always a good thing because you've reviewed it and you've looked to improve it. So I welcome the improvements to this. And thank you to Kelvin for putting it together. I think the flow is really, really clear. And my observation was that it really does strike the right balance between, not being dismissive of the complaint, but dealing with it in the right way. But also that vulnerability lens was really well applied as well. So it was really good to see that. The other point that I wanted to make was just around the rollout of it. So I think we end up being really good with rolling out new things as they occur, but sometimes new recruits tend to get forgotten. So I just want to make sure that this gets built into any kind of induction work that we do with our new members of staff that join us, etc., that they don't then miss out on some of these updates that are so crucial. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for those observations, Ash, and yes, and thank you, Kelvin. I think this is a revised and a reviewed policy from 2015, so there was quite a bit of dust on that, I'm sure, and I think it is important that we bring these things to where they are. Thank you for your work on this. Did you want to add anything, Kelvin, that you're here on your debut tonight? Okay, you're very welcome, and thank you very much. I've heard nothing but good reports since you've been with us, so that's encouraging. So I need someone to move this report. Moved. Second report, and we vote on that, and that's unanimous. And thank you very much, Mark, for bringing this forward with Calvin. So that deals with item 10, I believe. We'll move forward on to agenda item 11. So this is a recommendation of approval of the data breach management policy. Mark, this is you and Kelvin double act, was it? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Yes. Sorry, a bit of feedback. Yes, this is a further improvement to our information governance updates. Again, Kelvin, has been the orchestrator of this in relation to the author. And like I said, this policy, is a new policy. The previous one has been embedded in our ICT policy, and part of good practice from the information commissioners is that you have a dedicated policy in relation to this. So, as part of that improvement, we've done this, and the policy then strengthens the management of a data breach. So Rother has a very good history of this, and it's just making sure that we build on that and strengthen our governance position. So, the policy brings, definition of what a data breach is. There's a clear process to identify, report, but also look at how we risk assess those, how we respond, but also, again, the recovery aspect. So all of those stages are really crucial to have identified in this policy. It sets out the roles and responsibilities of key officers, again, which is really important to have that information governance flow chain. There's templates in relation to handling examples. Like I say, this is really key to mitigate the risk of a data breach. So if it does occur, it's making sure the organisation knows what to do to reduce any implications, whether that be financial penalty from the Information Commissioner or that reputational damage, that's caused as a result of, a data breach. So it's making sure that we have strong governance in place to outline what we do. That's part of I suppose the tip of the iceberg in relation to this. The second part is that awareness, the training, is a crucial factor in making sure that the organisation is fully on board and know what they're doing. So, but yes, I'm asking Cabinet to support this policy and welcome Kelvin to add anything that I've not covered. So, thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Would you like the opportunity, Kelvin, please?
Thank you, Chair. All I would like to emphasize is that it is a key policy for any organization. We, since joining ROTHA, it is abundantly clear that this is an area that we probably overlook, and there are probably incidences out there where we are having breaches done, but we don't recognize it, and it's always going to be a risk to the organization, both financially as well as reputationally. So I do encourage and ask that members do support this bill.
It's an overall, from a protection point of view, from the reputation of the council and also its officers and members. It's absolutely vital that we have this in place. Ash?
Thank you. Yeah, just to say another really solid, improvement to our governance position. It's good that we actually have our own policy on this now, especially when you look around in the, not necessarily the council industry, but right across businesses, and the number of data breaches of these key organisations, these huge organisations that you would kind of expect to have a really robust system in place are being caught out. So anything that we can do to get ahead of that will always be a positive. So thank you for your hard work on that, Kelvin, again.
Excellent. Thank you, Ash. I just need someone to move. A question. Thank you. Yes, please do.
Thank you, Chair. Just a wider question, really. I mean, we should be applauded for bringing all our policies up to date. And this is really good to bring this forward. And the advice from people who've gone through local government reorganisation and are in unitaries now say that's what we should be doing. All our leases should be up to date, etc. I just wondered, and maybe we don't know the answer now, as in many things we don't know the answer. I just wondered who is going to actually look at all council's policies and just put them as one, combine them, have them operating separately. How is that? How is all that? We don't have to do that work, I hope.
Perhaps Lorna can enlighten us.
I'll try, Chair. I think the idea that all of our policies will come together before we go into the new authority is not the way it will work. I think that will take some time, but I do think you're right. We need to be in the best possible place we can possibly be with our policies, our leases, our information. So that is something that we can focus on. I think some of the work streams coming forward may mean that we need to get some work done in advance of the new authority, but so much of it will come together over a phased period when the new authority is set up. I don't know if anybody else in the room's got anything else to add to that, but that's my understanding.
I don't think anyone in the room has got anything to add to that. I've got Councillor Aaron Rathbone-Area online. Are you feeling better, Aaron?
Unfortunately not, no. I seem to got rebounding COVID, so that's why I'm not in the room tonight. So I don't really want to spreading COVID around. It's not directly related to the report tonight, but I just want to raise awareness of obviously cybersecurity and thank Mark and his team for having prepared us in the future to strengthen our areas in cybersecurity, and obviously data protection is part of that. To your link, and obviously there has been, as Councillor Giovanna has mentioned, some high, famous or infamous cases recently of Marks and Spencer's and others. The nursery even being targeted is really important that we strengthen our data protection measures. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron, for those comments. No other comments from anywhere? No? We just need to move this report. In the absence of Ash, Councillor Sue Projak, second Councillor Gareth Delaney, and those in favour of the report, which is another one that's come out of the cupboard and it's dusted down and we are where we are on it. I think that's so important. Okay, so the next item is basically a suggestion that the exclusion of press and public with regard to sensitive information that's coming forward. So by virtue of Part 1 of the Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 as amended, it's recommended that the press and public be excluded. The relevant paragraph of Schedule 12A indicating the nature of the exempt information is stated after the item and is reproduced in full at the end of the agenda. In all the circumstances of each case, it is considered that the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. Move of the exclusion. Those in favour of exclusion, that's unanimous, and presumably Lisa will do something. Councillor Osborne.
Back online.
Oh, right. I think you're a bit too late, sorry.
Sorry.
We're back on live session now, so that concludes the business for this evening at whatever time it is, 7:32, 33. Thank you everyone and good night. Safe journey. Bye.